Asphalt Productions back at it, this time with something a little bit different. Sort of another ranking video, but more so about specific events that have happened. Specifically, the top 25 biggest upsets, or craziest upsets, however you want to say it, of 2025. And this is post-Gommel, before the, I guess, second weekend of July. So if you're behind watching this, some things might be left out. I did include one weekend past quarter two. My rankings I've done quarterly, but Gommel just happened. There was a lot of stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'll throw that in. And yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. I wanted to first give a little bit of a shout out because there's a lot of melee brackets. There's a lot of players that sometimes make good upsets but are not necessarily on a national scale or international. These were some things that I noticed outside of the top 32 seeds at an event. Some things like Vianney beating Boyd. I think that was an Ices Ditto. AMPP over Yaraiden, which is I think a Luigi Ditto. There's some other ones about older players that's like Homemade Waffles, Red, Squid, some of these classic players that may have been overseeded, but either way, someone beat them and got the win. One of the craziest ones here is Fitzy over Solo Battle. That was kind of surprising, even though technically it wasn't a top 32 seed. A bunch of other things like that. So props to these players. Yeah. I don't know a ton about each one of them, but I know the names on the right, even if I don't know the names on the left. So gotta give props there. But I think when you think of craziest upsets, you think of like one of the heavy hitters of a bracket losing somehow. Because melee upsets are not that common. At least they weren't. Nowadays, you can see some stuff because a lot of people are on that grind. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So number 25, Ossify over Jmook at Full Bloom, which is some people may not think that's that impressive, but I think that it is particularly unique, not only with Sheik and Marth being fairly Sheik favored, at least based on rhetoric, which as a Marth main, it feels true sometimes, but Jmook is also very, very good against Marth. Like, really, really good. So the second or third, however you want to say, depending on how active Kodorin is and recency for all that kind of stuff, a top 3 Marth beating usually the best Sheik in that matchup is pretty cool. And as a whole, this tournament was great for Ossify. Lost to Laud in winners, and then had a crazy lose run. I think beating Aklo, getting the run back against Laud, beating Jmook. It was a crazy run. I think this was the largest part of that run, which also, I'm only going to include one upset per player, like getting the win, because I don't want to just have some players like, okay, you got 5 upsets, like you're hogging to the spotlight. I'll go over it with their spot on the list, but I didn't want the list to be too long, and I also didn't want it to have only a few players. I wanted to share the love a little bit. But yeah, this was a big deal. Ossify got second to Crudo, which was kind of strange. It's like you beat the best Sheik but lose the second best Sheik, but Crudo is also very good. And, styles make fights. But yeah, I thought this was a good way to start the list. It wasn't super crazy, 23 over 5. Not a huge difference there, but still good stuff to Ossify. Ossify is really cool as a Marth main myself. Really cool to see him play, and it was a good breakthrough, I think. This one. Now, this one is even more confusing because it was Whizro over Plup, 10 seed over 7 seed, and it was 12 over 5. That doesn't seem that crazy. That seems kind of routine. But if you know anything about Whizro versus Plup, I mean, it's like 50 to 2 or something crazy like that. They're both Florida, or at least they were. I think Plup moved to Oregon or something. But they both came up through Florida and played a ton. And Sheik versus Falcon is known to be kind of Sheik favored, again, based on like rhetoric. but it was especially true for this matchup. I think Whizro won over like a Slippy tournament in like 2020, and Plub doesn't attend that much. I mentioned that the ranking is on the right. Plub didn't attend enough to be ranked. Still did okay. Also was like going Samus and stuff like that. Nothing like too crazy in 2024. Still did all right. But Wizrobe finally got that win, and at least got another win, which is still a very long lifetime disparity. But I think, and this helped Wizrobe, beat HBox, got pretty far in the Genesis bracket. I think maybe fifth, something like that. Maybe even third. I don't entirely remember. I think beat HBox in winners, lost to Triff. Genesis was a while ago. But either way, this was a really cool showing for Wizrobe, and beating Plup, I think, is a big up for Wizrobe to do that. Next, we have Fiction beating Nikki. Now, this is a unique kind of storyline thing, to where Fiction was known as the guy who made the Ice Climbers guide, which apparently was less about like, here's how you beat Ice Climbers, just like, here's certain things, like certain details in the game with like AI patterns and timers and stuff like that. It wasn't like, oh, you just do this every time. But this was pretty interesting. Nikki coming off a really strong end of 2024, along with a really good Nouns. So was a pretty high seed. I think this was actually 7. Let me fix that. Yeah, I think it was 7 versus 26. I mixed that up. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting matchup. With Fiction is known to go a lot of different characters. Mainly known for Fox and Falco. Used to play Marth a little bit. Has a Sheik for Marth sometimes, but also goes Peach apparently. And pulled out the Peach a little bit with the Fox and got a win. And was pretty surprising. I feel like Fiction is kind of one of those players that's just kind of there sometimes. Like, he's good. Kind of got robbed the top 10 back in 2019, but like, he's like, all right, he's there. And then, oh shoot, he beat Nikki. Like that's separately mega stuff. And yeah, this also led to another matchup that happened right after, which is Nikki over HungryBox. This is another matchup of the seeds not being that far apart. But if you know anything about Jigglypuff versus Ices, you know that it is very tough for Ices. Especially now that wobbling is gone. Now, Nikki, one of the pioneers of Ice Climbers. We've seen Slug and Moth and a few others, like Lunar Dusk used to do some stuff. Like there are some players, which I think Lunar Dust actually switched to the Pup Ditto instead of playing Ices, which is kind of a sign. But there's some Ice Climbers that are doing it big, but none of them were able to get HungryBox. Like, a lot of players were falling left and right. Nikki beat what was it? Zane, Jmook, and Cody, like all in the. I think JoshMan too. Like all in the same run. And played HungryBox a few times, played AMSA as well, and had really close sets at what was it, Egg Dog Invitational, I think. So people seem like, okay, the grab follow ups. Well, Nikki was really smart about it. Puff being a light character, maybe Sopo is not too bad. But HungryBox is pretty good in the matchup. A lot of experience over the days. And it was a big deal. And also the context of when that happened was a pretty big deal. HBox got 33rd, which was unprecedented. HBox had been so consistent for so long. Even though he lost the top 8 streak the last tipped off, still had like the top 12 or whatever kind of streak for such a long time. Like it was a very historic. I think his first ever like regional or something. He got 33rd, And so it was super crazy that he got this placing so late into his career. And Nikki delivered it, so props there. 21, these are kind of the same as each other. Obviously, I would say one is. I don't think. Okay, oh, never mind. One looks larger in seeding, but by ranking, it's much closer. However, in general, Sheik versus Ices is really tough for Ices. Or, excuse me, tough for Sheik. Sopo has a chain grab on Sheik, and a lot of times you have Nana. So it's a tough matchup. A lot of Sheiks even go Zelda. But I think J-Mook tried to stick it out. J-Mook had beaten Moth in earlier in the bracket, but then Moth got the run back in losers quarters at Nouns, making it a 2 Fox 2 Ices top 4, which is pretty weird. But and then Beckvin also got a win on J-Mook at Smash Camp. You're gonna see J-Mook on this list sometimes. I mentioned last year he was pretty consistent, and that's nothing compared to this year. J-Mook has beaten Cody this year. J-Mook has beaten a lot of really players, but has also lost a lot. So it's gonna happen with J-Mook apparently. That's kind of how it goes. And of these matchups, I would say Moth is what was a much better player than Beckvin, but it's not too different of an upset. So I kind of included them in the same one just because they're kind of similar. But yeah, 20. Now, 2 top 10 players. JoshMan, really good in the Fox Ditto, but I still think this is a very solid upset, especially looking at how Cody did the rest of the events. Won Nouns Bowl very solidly, only dropping this set and then running it back very convincingly. But JoshMan still got that set. It was in winners quarters. I believe it was 3-0. And it was just very surprising because Cody was seeming to be so impressive, especially like the second quarter of the year. After this, loser had to play Zayn. So that's a clutch win there. Cody beat Zayn, ran it all the way back to grand finals. So it was a big deal. I think that JoshMan being number 8 from last year against number 2, not that crazy. Also, JoshMan has done it in the past, and he's better now than he was. So maybe you could say this is not as much of an upset, but I think it's a big deal. Cody is solidly number 1 right now, and so any kind of loss that Cody has is kind of inflated because of how well he's doing. So good stuff to JoshMan. Got that top 20 upset in my opinion. Now this one, there's a bunch of dittos. I mentioned a few earlier on like the HM tier or whatever, but this one was strange. DarkGenX over Slug in the Ice Climber ditto, which is a silly matchup. I remember watching a couple of VODs. I think was it like 2 versus Fly or something like that. It's weird. And DarkGenX has a history of doing well versus Ice Climbers, playing Fox, and knowing how Ice Climbers like operates, being an Ice Climber main himself. But he did the Icy ditto. And Slug being number 9 in 2022, but being kind of rusty, doing all right here and there. I think got a J-Mook win in the past year or so, beat like Logan, other players like that. And them being only 16 seeds apart at Nouns Bowl, I think is like, it kind of downplays it. Because DarkGenX is unranked, and Slug was former top 10. That's crazy. And in the ditto, and to make it out, like Slug went 2-2 at this event. Like that's really weird. And I think it's a big deal that DarkGenX got this win, because if Slug was less rusty, almost certainly gets a higher seed. But if you don't attend as much, you haven't been around for a while, people aren't necessarily going to reward that by seeding, which I agree with, but I think it can make it seem like it's not a big deal, but this was a big deal. I definitely think this is one of the more peculiar upsets in this list. Now, next one, more ice climbers. You're going to see a lot of ice climbers involved, either on the winning side or loser side. This side being the losing side, with the Morse Code 762 getting another top 10 win. How does he do it? Goes into hiding, enters a couple PM brackets, and then beats a top 10 player. Has 2 JMUC wins, 2 Cody wins. Cody finally got that Morse win, but not before this happened, with Morse Code being can't speak. Morse Code beating Nikki. Now their rankings are not that far apart. Seeds are kind of far apart, but for a stacked bracket, you're gonna have some closeness there. But it was very, very strange. I think that, Nikki had a really strong performance earlier in the year, late last year. Didn't do so hot at Tipped Off, but was looking to do really solidly here. And then Morse Code, boom. Top 10 Slayer, back at it again. And it ended up with a pretty unique result. Morse Code also got a Sunsei win to get that Cody run back. And sent Nikki on a path to losers, which I'll cover in a little bit. But yeah, I think this was a pretty unique upset with Morse Code. I think Morse Code really shows up, but also had a pretty bad Full Bloom. I think got 13th. And Full Bloom wasn't it was kind of mediocre stack. It had Aklo, J-Mook, Wizzy, but wasn't that. There weren't a ton of top talent who Morse Code is known for being fine against, but still got 13th. And it was that's kind of weird. But got a really strong placing at Gommel, with I think Nikki being slightly better than a Sunsei win. But it was both 8 and 9, so either way, really good stuff to Morse. Next one, J2 over Sunsei. Now, I just mentioned Sunsei got upset. Sunsei is a player who is very, very good in a lot of ways and gets really close a lot of the time. Last year, finally got some of those wins, getting, I forget if the Zane win was not counted because of it being at a smaller event, but still got a ton of wins, got a Cody win, had an argument for top 10 at some point. J2, known to be one of the players with the most sets on Slippy, crazy grinder, the future of Pikachu, whatever you want to call him. Still was ranked, but that's an 80 rank difference, and this was at Tipped Off, and Sunsei, I'm pretty sure beat Moki later in this event. So this is a good Sunsei. Now maybe you think J2 has this crazy momentum, just needs a few good wins to go up in rank and get a higher seed to help get easier brackets to keep going and going and going. That's kind of the 51 through 100 has a lot of those players. But and Pikachu does okay against Fox, I guess. I mean, it's not as simple as people make it seem. They just quote, "Oh, Axe, FOD, haha, Pikachu beats Fox," but it's tough. But still got that win, and in pretty early part of Tipped Off. But yeah, pretty impressive. Sunsei is not an easy win. It does happen sometimes. Being a fast Fox, sometimes you just kind of get bodied. But yeah, good stuff to J2. Now we have another Samus versus Ice Climbers. So it's without wobbling, does Samus beat Ice Climbers? I wouldn't say for sure, but this was a unique upset. Zimberfizz, a North Carolina Samus, which I have been aware of since that's where I'm from. I follow along with the scene sometimes, and used to be entering North Carolina stuff back in the day. I'm aware of Zimberfizz, but I did not think that this would happen. Patchwork is known for being an ultimate event, kind of a smaller melee event. Last time it was Junebug and Salt in grand finals, and this time the top 2 seeds were Salt and Moth. So it was it's going to be the girls in grand finals, and a few people are also going to be there. But Zimberfizz 3-0'd Moth, And it was like, what in the world? It was just confusing. Like I was like, cool, Zimmerfizz, that's great, but it's like that's just strange. And Moff attends a lot of stuff. Big props. The more you attend, the more likely you put yourself at risk for a loss. But Zimmerfizz kind of cleaned up here. And this was in top 24 of a not super stacked event. Later, FM, the British Puff, I think, also beat Moff. I think this is a slightly bigger upset. You could also include that one, but apparently FM is just really slept on. No pun intended. People are saying that underranked in the UK and just not really considered to be like. I think Zimmerfizz upset is a little bit more. At least to me, it stands out a little bit more. Now, next we have another European involved event. This is Izzar. That's weird to say. The Captain Falcon over Frenzy, which number 75 is kind of like Frenzy's usually top 50. I think had some losses. I think lost to Mo or something like that last year, which is not terrible, but like kind of underranked in at least by skill perception. This matchup is known to be Falco favored again by rhetoric, but Frenzy was the second seed. It was like, okay, Triff fresh off of the Genesis Grand Finals run. Frenzy, pretty solid player. It's probably going to be them, and it did not happen. Winners top 24 of Valhalla 5. You had, I believe, Izzar is Greek. I think I saw that they were from Greece, which I had not heard of Greece having any kind of Smash representation. So that's pretty cool to hear. Like, oh, country I didn't even know played this game, at least not like tournament wise, and then beats one of the best European players like active right now, and that's pretty unique. And had a pretty good run here. I did not know of them at all, and I follow along with Europe a little bit, and I consider myself to know some players, but it was like, what happened? And sent Frenzy to losers really early, and I think some people don't really recognize this upset because of something else that happened at that tournament, which I'll get to soon. But yeah, it was strange, but good stuff to Izzar. Now this one is a bit silly. The Jake, which is J-Mook's Zelda. I say unranked because, okay, like, it's a little bit like a don't test me thing, but it's not like Zane can switch between Marth and Roy. Like, technically, J-Mook can switch to Sheik, which I don't think, you probably wouldn't switch from Zelda to Sheik for, like, recovery purposes. You usually only do that from Sheik to Zelda. But went solo Zelda at Fight Pit. And, not super high hopes, but had a really good run. I think got like 5th or something. And it's weird to know like a low tier secondary of a top player. Because, I mean, again, Marth and Roy, Sheik and Zelda, like, Marth and Roy are very similar in a lot of ways. Sheik and Zelda, you play both of them. And Zelda has a lot more of a streamlined gameplay, and you're going for a lot of kicks, maybe like a down smash, some stuff like that. Probably can edge guard okay against Spaceys, but it was kind of strange. Zuppy being more of a doubles player currently, but this was very peculiar. I did not. This was not expected. I think it was like, okay, maybe can do okay, but the Jake, which honoring the late Zelda player, the Lake from I think the PGH Neo scene. So huge props to J-Mook for doing that, but yeah, and also got a few good wins. I think got a bunch. Beat Frostbite, the MDVA. Ice Climber main beat Mott Money. I think this was the best win though, at least by seeding. So want to give props here. A little bit weird how to factor it all in because it's technically a top player doing this, but it's still pretty cool. Now this one, some people consider this not that crazy of an upset, but I don't know. Like, I'm not just going based off of like upset factor and seeding. Like, I think that matchups and like context are important for like how crazy an upset is. HBox has been #1 puff for, I mean, like 15 years now, like 13 years. Like it's been a long time where HBox has been #1 puff, almost undisputed. Like there's been a few here and there. Like some people have gone kind of close. HBox wasn't that good on Slippy, so other puffs started catching up. But like HBox had the Genesis win, the CEO win. A little bit inconsistent at some places, but still very good. And yeah, they had that close set at last Gommel, but it was like, okay, HBox is just gonna run over this again. And that set was so wild. It was so strange, especially the ending. Like it just didn't feel like it made sense. And then that last little part where SCJ sneaks that last hit in and then floats away and gets the timeout, that was crazy. And I mean, HBox won the run back and got to have the higher placing. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. And like only 8 C's different, 9 rank difference. I think this is a really big deal. I think Dittos sometimes overstated because that doesn't mean SC suddenly is a better puff, especially like for the whole year. But it's a big deal because you would think that the best player of a character would know how to fight against it because they're most familiar with that. But sometimes Dittos are a weird matchup. Sometimes you're not ready for it to be thrown back at you. And SGJ did like that. The rest rapid fire game was very silly, but overall it was just a really like grindy game that I'll be honest, I didn't watch all of it, but there were moments where I'm like, oh shoot, like it was exciting because the tension between these two. And SCJ, kind of a more quiet player, but had a big pop off and had a good run. Also beat Cody after. You could argue that Cody is the bigger win, but I don't know. I think this has like a more symbolic, like you beat HBox in the Puff Ditto, like that's gonna go down in history. Like that's crazy. So big ups to SCJ for that clutch win there. Now this one, I feel like people kind of ignored. I think it's a big deal. Crike is a Marth main. I think also plays Ice Climbers. I think also played a little bit of Mewtwo too, as well. Yeah, a pretty solid. I think Maryland and Pennsylvania kind of goes between that area. Marth main doesn't really stand out a ton, but does solidly. Played Whizro at full bloom and won. Now Whizro has beaten Zane a bunch, taken Zane close a bunch. Falcon Marth is considered Falcon favorite, or at least realistically, Falcon's going to do fine in that matchup. Crike won, and it was a crazy set. Full bloom, it was like okay, there's a few high seeds and then a bunch of like top 50 grinders that are trying to get an opportunity and stuff. But full bloom stuff happens. I mean, the previous full bloom had some weird upsets, and this one did as well. And Crike was the 14th seed and beat the 3 seed Whizro in a peculiar matchup. I think some people might consider this to be a little bit high up, but I think it's a big deal. I think this was a big surprise to me, and yeah. This one, another Cody loss, which was pretty rare this year, besides against like Zane. This was a surprise. Now Aura is from Oregon and got ranked kind of high, but doesn't travel a ton. Like went to some Pacific Northwest stuff and I think got like a JoshMan win or something at I forget exactly what it was, but it was some smaller event like that was like a regional size that had a few like top 20 level players, and Aura does really well in Oregon. Like, Oregon has a solid scene going on. Um, like they have Stiv and Adam Smash series and all that kind of stuff. And Aura seems to be kind of rising up and doing very very well. And I believe this was a 3-0, which I maybe it was Polish. Cody seems to sometimes lose to Peach, which Peach does okay against Spacey. We've seen it historically that is a fine matchup. And Aura did very well. Had a later placing, getting ninth, I believe, and also getting some wins later on at I think Battle BC. Had a very strong showing for the first quarter of the year. I think this is the biggest win. I mean, one of the biggest wins, just at least by seeding, especially when you have like the 2 seed, which Zayn and Cody have seemed pretty far ahead of everyone else, pretty solidly. Like yeah, there's a couple demons that they have, but very consistent overall. And Aura getting that win was a pretty big deal. This is the number 10 win, a bit of a weird one, but I think contextually, Mango does really well against Fox, and Zuppy was a doubles player that played Falco some, did beat Amsa at a few collisions ago, but was not really considered to be that big of a deal. I think maybe was a little underseeded, but it's like if you don't enter much and not doing that well, you can't just expect to be seated above players that are earning their seed. But it was early in losers. It was like top 24, and yeah, Zuppy got the win, which it's kind of funny because beating the number 3 player of last year but losing to a Zelda, it was a bit of a weird stretch for Zuppy there. But hey, got the win, advanced in bracket, and good stuff. Number 9, another Ditto that is pretty strange. OKP is one of those players that's like, okay, they're a Pikachu that plays some. Like you have, I guess Switz is not quite as active. You have J-Chu, you have OKP, you have Blesse. You have some of these players that play Pikachu and they're known kind of like you sometimes know Yoshi's, like Daniel and Peanutphobia and Egg Money and players like that. You're aware of the mid tier like second place and the like, but you don't expect them to win the Ditto. I guess also Mono for Yoshi, but this was strange. Smash Camp is a weird event. A lot of good players are there, but sometimes it's like, does it count? Does it not? I think if you enter an event that's very very stacked, it should count. Like if or just play friendlies or do like a silly bracket, like that's not the structure of a tournament. If you don't want it to count, so I'm counting it. Also beat JoshMan at this event, which I think by rank is technically a better win, but Axe has been doing very well this year, and I think winning the Pikachu Ditto, which Axe had a bit of a head-to-head rivalry going with Swift, getting outranked that one time. I think won like an online set. I think they played in an invitational or something, and it's like, okay, Axe is maybe not the most experienced in the Pikachu Ditto, but is still the best Pikachu, and so this was weird. This was not expected, and kind of shaded up the bracket a little bit. And again, got some other wins as well. I think that if it does count, OKP can definitely ride this wave to get ranked and all that. But yeah, it was weird, and but yeah, it happened. And this one, I think is still a very big deal, but it depends on who you ask. Junebug, being a very very good player, had that crazy run, several good runs last year, getting a good run at Supernova. Also did really well at Eggdog, got some good wins. And depending on who you ask, people might think that Donkey Kong either goes even or maybe even beats Marth. Ringler has been the Mars Slayer in SoCal for a while. A lot of Mars do not want to play the Donkey Kongs. Um, Kadorian did beat Junebug though, which I don't think is quite enough to be this kind of upset, but was a big deal. But Junebug seems to have a lot of comfort against Zane. They're friends. They both played a lot in MDVA when Junebug was a Sheik main, but got the win with Donkey Kong and caused Zane to be in losers to have to eventually play Cody. So really shook up who he just won WBC like a month prior, and got sent to losers very early. The number one from last year. This is a strange loss. Like you don't expect it. Other players might get upset more often, but Zane you don't see very often. But sometimes the mid tiers, you know, like I mean, maybe ICs are not a mid tier, but it kind of feels like they are sometimes, especially without wobbling. But DK getting another really clutch win. The Renaissance is alive and well, and I think that's a top 8 upset for the year so far. This is another Battle of BC weird upset in losers top 24. Graves, I think was like close to being ranked, but not quite ranked. Most known for losing to Slime, which I feel bad. I wouldn't want that to be like how I'm known. So I want this to be recognized. I think it is some, but beat Moki when Moki has been getting very good in the Falco matchup. Like yeah, it does have some Magi. I think it has a Magi loss this year, but getting very good, beating bracket demons that played Falco, and then just Graves beats Moki, and it was confusing. It was even though Moki's Toronto and this was Vancouver, it's across the way, across the country. It was still like okay, Moki's gonna defend Canada and gonna be pretty high up. Moki had another good place. I think it was at Full House later on, but it was like okay, like Moki will bounce back, lost kind of early, and then Moki got 17th. Dang. And Moki does get upset sometimes. Like Moki is a player who gets really good wins, and that's a big deal. But Graves got the best of him this time, and I think was pretty surprising. Now we have. I mentioned earlier Valhalla would have another upset. This is actually 2 because it happened twice. Now Triff, fresh off of a Genesis second place, goes to back home to Europe, enters Valhalla 5, and then loses twice to Rix's Fox. What? Like, I think Rix was like top 20 in Europe or something. I think a German Fox. Entered, tipped off, and did all right there. I think beat Wally or something. So must be good versus Peach. But yeah, it was very strange. It's like okay, Triff gets second at one of the biggest events of the year. Yeah, Zane DQ'd and gave Triff an easier bracket, but Triff still got some pretty solid wins there, and coming off this huge mountain and then getting 4th place at a European regional. It's like okay, maybe you lose in the winners 3-2, and then you get the download to win 3-0 in the run back. No, you just Rix won twice. Definitely capable of being ranked. I think it's sometimes difficult overseas to rank players. I think is at that caliber, clearly by beating Triff twice. But it was so confusing. Like I mentioned earlier, the Frenzy loss, like Frenzy and Triff played in losers top 8, and they were the top 2 seeds. Very strange. And then Triff wins, but then loses to Rix again. It was weird, and I think kind of halted the momentum of Triff going up after getting 11th last year, and getting second at Genesis. Was like okay, Triff's going to be a top 5 player. Not quite. this kind of put the pause button on that. And I think could even go higher because it happened twice. But either way, still very good. One of the best upsets of the year so far. Now this one is just kind of makes me sad a little bit. I don't want to be too biased, but I like Jmook. I think Jmook's so cool. I think the style of Sheik is like revolutionary. I still remember the Genesis where everyone's wearing the white shirts and going insane for Jmook. And he got even better. Finally got that major win after getting like top 3 so much. Was number 3 in that summer ranking and was like consistent top 10 player. It's not looking great right now. And Bond, which I went through a list of Pikachus. I didn't even mention Bond. That was so, like, Creed was not that big of an event. Philadelphia, they do great stuff. Brotherly Love Esports, they run good events, but it wasn't the most stacked event. Jmook, the 3 seed of the event, which, it wasn't even, I think, like, Slug was there, I think Aklo was there, 4-4 Cray, like, people like that, which I think is who sent Jmook to losers, if I remember correctly. And it was like, okay, which is also kind of an upset, but kind of pales in comparison to what the 5th best Pikachu right now. It's tough to know because people usually stop counting by then. But Bond showed up and got a great win. And I don't want to downplay this and say, oh, Jmook's washed, but people are showing up. I mean, Jmook used to like trade sets with Axe a few years ago, and now it's losing to Bond. Like that's either that means that Jmook is not keeping up and everyone else is going crazy, or I don't know. I think that's what it means, right? I think that people are catching up, and the last couple years, people have been on their grind, and they just need that one opportunity, and boom, they can beat a top 10 player before you know it. So yeah, this was a weird one, but that's how it goes sometimes. Not everything is like a storybook crazy one. It's like, okay, everyone's their own main character trying to win, and sometimes it happens. Now this one I was very positive about. Unfortunately, was not on stream. I just put out a video about kind of my thoughts about not being on stream and stuff like that. But Rap Monster, or Rap M, is a Maryland Luigi, or MDVA at least, and just recently graduated high school, a young player, and has been doing good. Had a bunch of Game 5 sets, I think Game 5 with Axe, Game 5 with Jmook. Like, has been doing good, can't travel a ton. Went to Gommel, which NDVA to Toronto is not terrible, but it was still a commitment. And had a solid run. I believe beat Preeminent. I was like, okay, that's good, that's solid. And then beats Crudo won Full Bloom, got top 3 at Tipped Off. Crudo is, skyrocketing as the new best Sheik, at least for right now. But lost to Rap M's Luigi. And had, really cool movement, really cool aerial placement, a nice style that people, I think, kind of got annoyed by Luigi. I think Abate being such a Chad kind of carried Luigi a little bit. A lot of people thought Luigi was very annoying, but Rap M had a great run. Also, beat Slug, beat Mott Money, had a really close set with Whizro, which heartbreaker, but still crazy good. So cool to watch, and I'm sure will be ranked. Got a bunch of wins and is a solid in-region player. I think was like number 3 in NWA, number 5, something like that. High up there. Junebug and Zane are not super active, but you got Kevin Maples, you got Maelstrom, you got Malachi, Mog, what do you want? Like, if they're active, Crike if they're active. I think 7 is doing pretty good, JuiceBox. Like there's some solid players, and Rap M is kind of rising to the top, and I want to see him into more. I think that'd be really cool to see. I think Supernova, probably their next event. Maybe we'll see a little bit more from them. But yeah, really big upset there. Not the biggest in seeding difference, but I think it's a big deal. Really big deal. Now this one, another Ices versus Sheik, but look at the seeding difference. 243 and 14. That's crazy. It doesn't matter what matchup you're playing. It could be, it could be, what? Brawl, Meta Knight versus Ganon. Like, that seeding difference, it shouldn't matter. But apparently, 14-year-old from NorCal or something like that, and beats Crudo, which this upset looks even better since Crudo had a crazy losers run to get top 16, won 9 or 10 sets in a row, and then also got first of full bloom third at tipped off. Like, this is a very, very weird upset. Like, yeah, matchups are important, but I don't think matchup kind of puts this into perspective that much. I mean, like some players unranked, it's like, okay, they didn't quite reach eligibility, got a few good. I'm like, no, salt in your eye, who? Like, came out of nowhere and beat one of the best players in the world right now. Winners top 384. It was the 1 versus the 4 seed in round 1 pools, which does not happen. Maybe you have a 3 over a 2 in that wave, but this was crazy. Everyone's like, what? But, no one's safe nowadays. You can't sleep. You can't just practice your tech skill on your first few matches. Like there's some hitters. You gotta watch out. But, yeah, a top 3 upset in my book. Now, this one just happened. I think people didn't even realize it happened. Nikki lost to Morse Code to go down to losers top 48, which, similar to what happens at tipped off, where it's like, okay, lost to Fiction early, but then got that HBox win. And then I think lost to SDJ later, which was, a good thing for SDJ to get a win in the same match as HBox, having some good, okay, the race for best puff is getting closer. But it's like, okay, Nikki looking good, bounce back. It happens. Morse Code, we don't know where to seed him, know where to rank him. It happens. But then runs into Kevbot, who is a NorCal Fox, which I've heard of for a while. Like, attends majors here and there and is okay, like pretty good player, but beats Nikki after Nikki beat Cody like a few months prior. Nikki is a former Fox main, knows the character very well, had a lot of experience against Fox, but Kevbot gets the win. I don't even know if Kevbot has that much Ices experience. If you're NorCal, maybe you have like some classic like Diz Kid Boogie and Nintendo Dude. Maybe. I don't know. Like, it was so unprecedented. And I remember seeing the recording later, and it was just like, it just felt weird. Like, it just felt like it was kind of a simple game plan that just worked. And, Ices have been so good this year. So good the past few years. Like, I mentioned, like, Slug, Moth, Nikki, like there's been some hitters. But unranked Fox, you never know. And Kevbot got the win. It was pretty surprising. But, yeah. And then we have this last one, which I might be a little bit biased. You can consider some of these to be a little bit higher, but I think Maelstrom defeating HBox is the biggest upset of the year so far. Now, by ranking difference, only 74 spots instead of being even larger with an unranked player. But how many times has HBox played a Fox? Thousands, probably. Like, it's been so many times. Maelstrom, not even considered to be the best Fox in MVBA. That's probably Kevin Maples. But been doing good. I think got invited to like a SoCal event. What was it? Star League Championship or whatever. Like, got some good wins there. Got enough to get ranked. Does well in region. That kind of stuff. I was like, okay, gets to play HBox. That's cool. Beats HBox. And it was like, and then the winner's top 96 at a very, very stacked event, and sends them down to later lose to Nikki. I think that the two HBox upsets here are both a big deal, but especially this one. Maelstrom, the 63rd seed, being Fox, which doesn't even necessarily have like he's pretty fast. I've watched some Maelstrom VODs in my day, usually rooting for him. It's like, he's solid. He's a good player. He has decent mix-ups, decent tech skill, but you would expect HBox to just be all over this. Like, yeah, SVAT looked like he saw the matchup. Oh, HBox struggled on Slippy, but like HBox is catching up against Cody. HBox is beating all these players, like pretty solid against Moki and JoshMan and all these other top foxes, Aklo and whoever else, Sunsei, and Maelstrom, who's maybe like probably not even a top 20 fox, beats HBox. It's crazy. Like, this stuff doesn't happen in Melee, and it's exciting. I understand if you're an HBox fan, it's not that exciting, but as a Maelstrom, as someone who wants to see MVVA succeed, Maelstrom did that. It's pretty cool. I'm happy. Maelstrom and Rapam and all these players that I'm familiar with doing well. Let me know if you have any disagreements. This is what some of the things I left off. There were a few, like June also beat Jmook, which I think is a big deal. Other things, like Axe over Zane, I don't really think is quite one of those upsets because it's happened so much. 404 Cray over Aklo also happened a bunch. Crudo over Moki and Whizro over Moki are both 3 losing to 14, but that doesn't necessarily feel right. Inky, pretty good. Got a good win on Spark. Panda over Jmook, which has happened a bunch. Zanya over Ben, another Sheik Ditto. Salt over Amsa, even though it's 10 over 7, it still feels like a big deal. Sunsei and Magi over Moki. Axe over Plup. Also the real thing over Plup. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, a lot of crazy upsets here. It is it's crazy. There's a lot of stuff that you gotta check up on. I know that Let's Drink the Pool is coming up this weekend. I think it's kind of it's gonna be kind of calm until Supernova. I know that Evo is coming up, so people might be focusing more on maybe just chilling and maybe watching Evo and stuff like that. But Let's Drink the Pool should have some of these players that either got upset or got some upsets. So we'll see if more crazy stuff happens again. Watching Melee has been really fun. And even though I don't always love the upsets that happens, like some of these I was like, Zane lost to, like, I like June, but like Zane is Zane is just awesome. And I really want Zane to be #1 again. But it's like, you gotta be along for the ride, because some of these matchups are just, it's wild. And it's a good thing. Just because we don't have the 5 gods anymore doesn't mean that it's not fun to look at these upsets. It's great. It's exciting. You never know what happens. Like, you have to pay attention to not just top 8. You got to look at top 32, top 128, more matches. Even in the case of Salt in Your Eye and Crudo, round 1 pools. Like, you can't sleep. Anything can happen. That's great. But yeah, that brings me to the end of this video. A little longer than expected. But yeah, I didn't link any of the videos, or I didn't play any of the videos. I want to be respectful and not use the footage without permission. But I'll probably link them in the description and the pinned comment, something like that. But watch some of these sets. Not all of them are streamed, not all of them are recorded, but a bunch of them were. And even if you spoil the results, it's some cool stuff. So yeah, Melee is great right now. And yeah, thanks for watching. Anything to add to this, please let me know in the comments. See you soon.